quadratic equations having imaginary solutions. Now remember that basically when we're solving any quadratic formula and we end up with the square root of a negative number, let's say it's -7, we're going to now be able to simplify this into an imaginary number. Okay, so here we go. Solving using the quadratic formula and having an imaginary answer. Well, if we look at the quadratic formula right here, and we notice the key part is going to be this thing, the square root of b squared minus 4ac. This value inside the square root, whatever b squared minus 4ac actually equals, will determine if our solution will have an I. So that little part inside the square root, b squared minus 4ac, gets a special name, the discriminant. All right. So the discriminant is equal to b squared minus 4ac. If the discriminant is a negative number, then we're going to have a solution that involves I, right? Because we're going to end up with a square root of a negative number, whatever it is. Let's just say it was 9. All right. So if the discriminant, or b squared minus 4ac, is negative, we will have an imaginary solution. So let's go ahead and do this problem. X squared minus 6x plus 13 equals 0. We're going to plug this into the quadratic formula. And it's nice to give us a equals 1, b equals -6, c equals 13. They already broke it down for us. The discriminant, all right, b squared minus 4ac. Let's plug our numbers in. So for b, I'm going to plug in -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 13. Okay, so I'm using this formula, and I'm going to see if the answer is positive or negative. And that's going to give us 36 minus, this should give me 4 times 13, 52. All right, and that's going to equal -16. So the value of the discriminant is a negative number. It's -16. So I will end up with an imaginary solution. Okay, so that's just a little precursor that tells us we're going to have a negative square root and imaginary solution. So let's go ahead and just start plugging into the quadratic formula. They start out with doing a couple things for us. They plug in b. We're going to go ahead and plug in the plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. We just found out is going to be the square root of -16 over 2 times 1 is 2. And as things simplify, we get 6 plus minus. Now it wants us to break up the square root of -16. It's going to break it up into 16 times -1 over 2. And that's going to give us x equals 6 plus minus 4i. Okay. And there we have it. Now we've got our imaginary solutions. Then they show us the next step. We're simplifying it. So they broke it up into 2 fractions. So 6 divided by 2 is going to give us 3. And plus minus 4i divided by 2 is going to give us 2i. So our final answer is 3 plus minus 2i. And those are our roots or solutions. So if we broke it up, the solutions are x equals 3 plus 2i and x equals 3 minus 2i. We will always get roots that are like this for quadratics. They will notice these are a special case. These are conjugate pairs. 3 plus 2i and 3 minus 2i. And so the solutions to quadratic equations that have imaginary answers will always be in a conjugate pair. Okay, so let's go on to example C, solving using completing the square. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to, because it's telling us to solve using complete the square, we know what steps we're going to have to follow. So I start by subtracting 8 to both sides, and then I get, I'll do it over here now, x squared plus 4x equals negative 8. Completing the square, we're going to add b over 2 squared to both sides, so they'd show us b is a positive 4, so 4 over 2 squared, which is the same thing as 2 squared, which is the same thing as 4 to both sides. So I'm going to add a 4 here and here. And remember that, okay, so now what goes in here is x plus b over 2, and b over 2 was 4 over 2, which is 2. So x plus 2 squared equals negative 4. All right. So there we go. We're already pretty quickly factoring this. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides. And that's going to leave us with x plus 2 on the left. We get that plus minus here. And we're left with the square root of negative 4 on the right. But we can go ahead and simplify that next line into the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1. All right, and that's going to give us plus minus 2i. So what we really have is x plus 2 equals plus minus 2i. Now we got to get x by itself by subtracting 2 from both sides. So x equals negative 2 plus minus 2i. And that is our final answer. It's in a plus bi form. So we just go ahead and write this down. X equals negative 2 plus minus 2i. And there you have it. So now you see that whenever you end up with a square root of a negative number in your solution, you can simplify it and use the imaginary unit to have a nice, neat solution. So for the rest of this, I'm not going to go through each problem, but I will scroll through the answers. If you go over these and can get the right answer, you'll be more than ready for the upcoming quiz. So you might wish to pause the video to look at any of the solutions more carefully. Make sure you get it down correctly. And definitely try practicing these. So again, I'm just giving you the answers. And you'll notice they all involve I. All right.